Hello. Welcome to Underthinking, the channel where I don't think I'm always overthinking. I think sometimes other people are just underthinking. This is a mindset channel. We talk about philosophy, psychology, mental health, and a lot of mindset on here. And if you don't know me, my name is Katie. I do have a travel and lifestyle channel on YouTube as well, but this is like a brand new channel talking about mindset. And so I really hope that you would subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please. I would appreciate it so much. So in today's video, first of all, can you hear this jacket making noises? I apologize in advance. I'll just stay like this the whole time. No, I won't. I'm Italian. I do talk like this, but I just hope that noise is not too loud. Anyway, in today's video, just like all my videos, these are my opinions, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comments as well. I always just hope that we can be kind and respectful. But yeah, in today's video, I want to talk about the idea that words matter. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, Katie, yeah, we already know that, duh. But sometimes I think that we, myself included, sometimes say things without actually thinking if they're what we mean. For example, there are a lot of definitive words, like I can't, I always, words like that I don't know if we always mean, right? And the main words that I want to talk about in this video, because I'm sure I could talk about this about a ton of words, but the main words that I want to talk about in this video, because I hear them all the time, are the difference between can and can't versus want and don't want. And so, for example, I hear a lot of people saying, I can't travel, for example, right? Because my main channel that I've been doing for 8 years is a lot of traveling. And so I hear all the time, I can't travel, I can't travel. And one of the things that fascinates me is when people use the word can't, when sometimes they might mean, I actually don't want to. And then also when sometimes they might mean, it's not my priority, or it's not what I'm going to do right now, or it's not a goal of mine, or I have other things going on, or I am going to, but in the future. I think one of the biggest ones is can't versus don't want to, and can't versus it's not lined up with my priorities and my goals. And I just believe, again, these are all my opinions, and I would love to hear your opinions as well. I think that when we say something like we can't, sometimes it kind of gives us an out and it gives us an excuse. And so if we're going to use the example of traveling, that's probably the example I'm going to use throughout this whole video, right? If you are someone who, works a full-time job and maybe you have a couple kids and a mortgage, and if you hear stories about other people traveling and your immediate response is, oh, I can't travel because I have my job and I have to take care of my kids. I hear that, okay? I totally hear that. But here's the thing. I think that there are definitely some circumstances where you can't, right? And then I think there are some circumstances where maybe you can't right now. However, I think most circumstances are you don't want to, and or it's not your number one priority. And so maybe you're saying I can't travel with kids, but in reality what you mean is my number one priority is keeping my kids in the same school all year round, and we don't have the money right now to put towards traveling because all the money we have is put towards something else. That to me is not the same as can't. So how I see them is can't is like there's no way. There's real no way. And I believe that the word can't is rarely meant as the word can't. I think that if you are currently in surgery, then yeah, you can't travel because you're literally in surgery. But I think that if you have a full-time job and you don't make a ton of money, but you make enough to pay your bills, but you don't make enough money to save up to go to France right now, then I do understand why some people might say, I can't go to France. However, I also really just wonder what would happen if we change our wordings to it's not in my budget right now, but if it's something that I truly, truly, truly want to do, I'm going to figure out how to do it. And the whole reason I bring this up, and the whole reason that I have talked a lot about excuses versus reasons in the past, and this kind of overlaps with that, is I think that if we say I can't, I think sometimes, again, this is my opinion, and it is based on very certain circumstances. I think sometimes when we say I can't, that it's just kind of giving ourselves an out to not put effort into it. Or that sometimes it's making an excuse as to why we're not doing it. Or there are just other things going on where other words might be more appropriate. And I already know that some people might be like, Katie, you're overthinking this. Katie, yeah, we just use all these words. It doesn't matter. But again, here's the thing, and this is the whole point of this channel, is that I think about these things all the time, and I think that they do matter. And so they might not matter to everyone. They probably don't matter to most people. But I'm always so curious about why we choose the words that we choose when we're speaking to ourselves or speaking to other people, because it's the same thing when we're talking to ourselves. Oh, Katie, you can't pass that math test tomorrow because you didn't study. Well, if you tell yourself you can't do it, guess what? You're probably not going to. If you tell yourself it's possible, if you tell yourself you might not, but that it's really, really possible, and if you focus on the possibility and the capability, then it's a little bit more likely that it might happen. And so that's why I think that words matter so much, because the story that we tell ourselves generally will lead us. And the story that we tell other people, the story that we keep repeating in our heads, will generally lead us in a very certain direction of our lives in general. So if you say something like, oh, I can't travel right now, no matter what the reasoning or excuse is, it could be, I have kids, I can't travel. It could be, I have a job, I can't travel. It could be, I don't have the money. It could be, I don't have anyone to go with. It could be anything. There are a lot of excuses and reasons, because I see reasons as like real true and excuses more as like things that we make up. There are both of those things as to why someone might not travel. It's up to you to know the difference. If it's really an excuse or if it's really a reason. Or if we're talking about words, if it's really I can't versus I don't want to, or it's not a priority, or not right now, but it's something that I'm working towards. And if we say I can't travel because I can't afford it, then guess what? We're not going to be putting the effort into potentially being able to afford it one day. And again, that does not mean that you'll be able to afford it in 6 months. You might still not be able to afford your dream trip for 10 years. I totally get that. We all have different circumstances, different lives, and different things that we have to spend money on, different priorities. I totally get that. But I think it's important to pay attention to what those priorities are, be aware of what those priorities are, and kind of see how our lifestyle matches up with our words and matches up with our priorities. Because also, there are some things that we do in our lives that don't match up with our priorities, that don't match up with our morals or our goals, but they're just things that we've always done. And so we just keep doing them. And I think that pertains to the same topic, because I think we so often, especially with age, and I only mean that to say that we've had like even more practice doing it, I think sometimes we just say things to convince ourselves that they're true because it's easier to think that way. We don't have to work on it. It's what everyone else around us is saying or doing. Or it's the lifestyle that we want to believe that we have, or something that we want to truly believe. And so when it comes to the word can't, I do think that sometimes people say the word can't because either they want to believe that they can't so that they don't actually have to change their mindset into putting effort into something different, or obviously that there is an actual reason why they can't, or what they really mean is that's not one of my priorities, so I'm not going to do it. But I think that saying something like I can't when you actually mean I don't want to, or when you say you can't when you actually mean it's not a priority of mine, I just think, is there anything like necessarily wrong with that? I don't know. But I just kind of really like the idea of saying the appropriate words to the situation that we're talking about. And I mess this up all the time, but I think that it's really good to notice it. Like I notice in my videos that I say something and then when I go to edit it, I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't mean to use that word. I wish I used this word, you know? And I just think it's good to catch ourselves when we can, because I really do think that words matter. And again, if we're telling ourselves a certain story or telling other people a certain story, we are going to end up believing it, whether it's true or not. And so if we tell ourselves we can't travel, when in reality, the actual truth is that we can, we're just not putting effort into it, or we can, we just have to plan really well, or we can, but it's just going to take us a few years to save the money. But if we tell ourselves we can't, then we are just going to continue to live by that. And we're going to convince ourselves that that's true. And then you're probably never actually going to end up traveling. And so here's the thing. There are lots of things in this life that we don't want to do, or that are not goals of ours, or that we're not led to do, or that are not right for us. There's a lot of things like that. But I still don't believe that we have to use the word can't with those kind of things. So there's a lot of people who don't want to travel, right? Maybe you're just not a big fan of it. It's just not really your thing. Totally understand that. But that does not mean that you can't do it. It means you don't want to. It means it's not a priority of yours. It means you don't enjoy it. It means that you do other things with your life. It means you have other things you enjoy, other things that are hobbies, other things that you're focusing on. That's what it means. But if you tell yourself you can't, you're just telling yourself a story that's a little bit different than what might be actual reality. And again, I mess up sometimes. Absolutely. We all do. I never want to make these videos ever acting like I'm perfect at things, because that's not what it is. These videos are because I'm curious about something and I want to talk about it and I want to hear your opinions on it and what you guys think and how you guys act. And I just, again, hope that we can all be respectful and kind, even if we have differences of opinions. But yeah, I just think that how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to other people matters, and what words we use matter. And especially if we're talking about definitive words, I just sometimes think that that can put us in a box. And there are some times where we might not think it matters, right? Like, I hate anchovies. I'm never going to eat anchovy. Does that really matter? Probably not. Does it matter if we say that definitively? Probably not. But I'm talking about more things that you actually kind of want to do, or that you are potentially lying to yourself about. That's kind of more what I'm talking about. And so again, if we're talking about traveling, or if we're talking about I'm taking a math test tomorrow and I'm going to fail. And you know what? If I have a math test tomorrow and I'm going into it, I'm going to fail. The situation that will probably be more likely is that I probably won't study a ton. And even the whole time I am studying, I'm just going to keep having thoughts of I'm going to fail anyway. Why does this matter? And then I'm probably going to go into the test freaking out or anxious or not remembering things because I'm like freaking out so much. And so I just believe that if we tell ourselves we can't do something, then it's probably more likely that it won't end up happening. And again, there are some things we can't do. There are some things we cannot do, but then there are a lot of things that we either just don't want to do, that don't line up with our morals or values or goals, or that just aren't our priorities. And I just think that wording those in a different way could be helpful. So even if there's like a huge goal in this life, right? Like if you have a huge goal of traveling, say, if you have a huge goal of going to France, you've never been, you've always wanted to go, it's something that you truly want, okay? But your situation and your circumstances right now don't really line up with going to France. Maybe you work a ton. Maybe you're growing a business and you're like, I'm working 12 hours a day. Maybe you're raising a family. Maybe you're sick. Maybe there's other circumstances going on where going to France right now just wouldn't make sense to you. I get that. I totally get that. We're not always going to do everything we want in our exact preferred timeline. There are going to be other circumstances. But with those circumstances, say you're not going to France because you're on a really tight budget. I talked about this in one of my last videos, the New Year's resolution video. When you're making goals, even if you have a goal to go to France, but right now you are living paycheck to paycheck, you barely are saving any money, you're barely even able to afford groceries. I totally understand that. Here's the thing though. I believe that if you truly want to go to France, it is possible to find a way. It might take you 10 years. It might take a lot of sacrifice right now. It might take a lot of hard work, but I think that it is possible. Am I saying that it's definitely going to happen? No. Am I saying it's going to be easy or it's going to happen in the time frame you hope or in the exact way you hope? No. But I'm saying it's possible. And so therefore, what I believe is instead of saying, I can't go to France, because then again, you're convincing yourself that you can't. I think the better words to use might be, I'm going to go to France one day. And so, you know what? If you tell yourself that, if you tell yourself I'm going to go to France one day, and again, even if it's 10 years from now, 20 years from now, hopefully it can be sooner, but it might have to be a long time. If you keep telling yourself, I can go to France, I will go one day. And if you really believe it, then you know what is going to happen? Your goals are going to start to line up with it. Your habits and your daily routine might start to line up for it. You might get a piggy bank and put France on it and put any extra change you have in there. You might realize after a couple weeks, you know what? Every Saturday, I have like 4 hours where I'm doing nothing. Maybe I'll pick up an Uber Eats shift. And maybe you're taking home an extra $50 a week. And then you can put that in your piggy bank. And again, I'm never saying it's easy. And I'm not even saying that this pertains to everyone. Never. I'm never saying that kind of stuff. See, and that's a definitive word. I'm never saying that everything that I say pertains to every single person, because that would not make sense. But I'm saying sometimes for some people, this is our reality. If I really want to go to France and the only thing really stopping me is money, there potentially could be a way for me to get a second job, for me to grow a business online, for me to do affiliate marketing, for me to do resale stuff where I go to thrift stores and resell things on Amazon. There's a way to do Uber Eats or Uber. Or there's even just a way to be like, you know what? I'm going to stop drinking alcohol and all that money I'm going to put towards my France trip. Or I'm not going to buy any new clothes for the next 3 months and put that towards my France trip. There just are things that we can do that are going to be sacrifices, because anything great that we want in this life is going to take sacrifices and hard work and focus. And I do believe that our culture sometimes promotes not working hard for things, but I just am always here to remind you and tell you that we can work hard for things. If it's something that you truly think is right for you and that you truly want, it is possible to get it. And that's all I'm saying. Again, I'm never saying that you need to do it, that you should do it, that it's going to happen in the way that you want it to. But I believe that a lot of things in this life are possible. They might just look different for you depending on your circumstances and your life. And it might not be in the time you want, but that there are just some things that are possible. And sometimes we tell ourselves we can't do it, either because everyone around us says the same thing, and so we don't think about our words either, which is totally common. Or we say we can't because we don't want to put the effort into it. Or we say we can't when in reality, what we actually just mean is we don't want to. Maybe you don't want to go to France. And it's like, oh no, I can't go to France. But maybe in reality, you're like, well, I don't want to. So I wouldn't change my priorities for it. I wouldn't change my lifestyle for it. I wouldn't sacrifice for it because I don't really want to. Like right now, going to France one day might be cool, but it's not remotely a priority of mine or a goal of mine. So I don't have a fund to go to France because it's just not one of my priorities. And so I'm not saying that everyone needs to go to France. I'm saying if it's something that deep down you really, 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 really want to do, that there might be ways to do it. But if you tell yourself you can't, you're potentially lessening the chance of it happening, because then you're not going to focus on it and you're not going to sacrifice for it. And I do not mean sacrifice as a negative word. And of course, it can mean a negative thing in certain situations. But the way that I'm talking about it is if you truly want to go to France, if you've always wanted to go, but you can't really afford it right now, you might sacrifice going to the movies. You might sacrifice going out to eat all the time. You might go out to eat once a week instead of twice a week. You might sacrifice ordering from Uber Eats all the time. And you know what you might do? You might stop ordering from them, and then you might start picking up shifts yourself. That's the kind of sacrifice that I mean, that we might be spending our time and our money in different ways because it will align to our future goals, to the future self that we want to have. And so there are going to be some sacrifices like that in life, And, within my travels, I sacrificed a lot of things. And at the time when I was doing it, the things I was sacrificing made sense to me. And there are going to be things that you could sacrifice that make sense to you. And these sacrifices might be extra things, right? And they might be things that you're like, you know what? Eating Oreos every week is not a priority. And if I stop buying 3 packages of Oreos every week, I can save $10. That $10 can go towards my France fund. I'm talking about things like that, because there are definitely going to be things in your life that you don't want to sacrifice, which totally makes sense. But there might just be a couple things in your life that you might be like, you know what? I can stop going to the movies every week. I love the movies, but I really want to go to France. And so this year, sacrificing movies, maybe I'll just go once a month instead. If I make that sacrifice right now, it's going to make my long-term goal happen. There are lots of times in our lives where short-term sacrifices will help us reach our long-term goals. Especially if you're talking about growing a business or something, or saving up for a trip, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot right now. But then you will eventually, hopefully, be able to hit your goal, and then you'll realize that it's worth it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just think that being honest with ourselves is really, really important. And I think that one of the ways we can do that is just watch our words. And there's a lot of words that we can watch. There's a lot of words that maybe we say that we don't actually mean. And so in this video, I'm just particularly talking about, can't versus don't want to, or can't versus not my priority, or something like that. It's not one of my goals. It's not lined up with my morals, something like that. And someone might argue, which I totally understand, that, well, if it's not lined up with my morals, then I'm going to say I can't. And I totally get that. If someone asks me to do something that's against my religion or my morals, I probably will say I can't do that. Because to me, I can't. But there might be some people who are like, well, what wording makes the most sense? Is it I can't, or is the actual proper word no, because it does not line up with my morals? Again, this is all opinion based, right? But I just think that it's a really interesting conversation, because how often are we lying to ourselves accidentally? And how often are we lying to other people accidentally without even noticing? And so there are some things that I think there's a confusing line, but again, it just fascinates me. This whole topic fascinates me. Here's an example that I've used in the past, and some people didn't like it. But again, that's fine. I understand that we're not always going to agree on everything. Say one of your friends invites you out to dinner, and you say, I can't, I don't really feel well, I'm really tired today from work. Maybe you're being honest. Maybe you're just really tired that day and you're just kind of not in the mood to go out to eat. Does that mean that you can't? I don't know. I might say that maybe you can, you just don't want to because you're tired. Or does being tired mean you can't? Or is it that tired is a priority and you're choosing that priority over going out to eat? Okay, so that's one of the ways that it's like sometimes we don't actually really know which wording to choose. And again, I know for some people they don't even care, but I care because I think it's interesting. Okay, so say your friend asks you out to eat and you're like, nah, I really can't. If you say the word can't, I really can't. I'm exhausted. Then what if your favorite actor who you run into at the grocery store on the way home invites you out to eat? But it's the same day. It's the same day. You feel exactly the same way. But your favorite actor asks you out to eat because you run into him at the grocery store. It's more likely that you'd say yes. I think in this scenario, if your reasoning to your friend who maybe you see all the time or you know him for a while or whatever is you can't because you're tired. But then if your favorite actor asks you out and then you go do it, then technically, did you mean that you can't? Or did you mean that you're just choosing not to? Or that you just don't want to? Or that you're tired and the desire to go out to eat with your friend does not surpass the desire to rest? But the desire to go out to eat with your favorite actor does surpass the desire to rest. And so that's one of the ways where I think the word can't is just interesting. Because if you would change your answer for someone else, then maybe you didn't mean can't. Maybe you just meant my priorities are different, or I just don't really want to, or I would rather do this. It's kind of like your hierarchy list of wants is going out to eat with my favorite actor, resting, going out to eat with my friend. Which I totally get, right? I totally get that. Your friend might ask you to go out and you might be like, no. But then like your crush asks you out and you're like, yeah, I want to, you know? And so I personally think that if it's a scenario like that, it's more of a want or a don't want. I don't think it's a can't. And again, some people might be like, who cares, Katie? Who cares if you use the word can't when you really mean don't want to? I just think that words matter. And I think that sometimes it's a slippery slope into like accidental lying or even then purposeful lying when we don't want to pay attention to our words. And so again, I mess up all the time. I'm sure everyone messes up when they think about this kind of stuff. But I just think that if we actually think about it and if we're actually honest with ourselves about it, that it can just be something that we potentially could, see how I'm not saying definitely will, that we potentially could change and that it could potentially be a good idea. I just am curious of if we actually start paying attention to words like that, what kind of changes it would make in our lives, you know? Like how honest we would be with ourselves. And the more that we tell ourselves, I can't, it's gonna kind of sometimes put us like in a little bit of a box, especially when it comes to a goal. Right? So that's a little bit different than if someone asks you out to dinner. If you're talking about a goal, I want to go to France. I want to ace my math test. If you keep telling yourself you can't, it's less likely it's going to happen. It's the whole whether you think you can or can't, you're right. And so if you're using the word can't, that is so definitive, then you're more likely to convince yourself that it's true. But if you use words that are more like it's possible, or I can. Again, when it comes to a goal, if you're saying I can do it, it just might take a long time, or it might just look way different than other people's, or something like that, then it's just more likely that you're going to put effort into it and that it's going to happen. And again, I'm never, ever going to say that everyone in their circumstances can achieve whatever they want, especially because everything that we want is not meant to happen. It's not meant to happen. I want to marry Andy Samberg. That's not going to happen. Okay. I know that. He's already married. Okay. It's not going to happen. So not everything we want is meant to happen. But if it's a goal, like going to France or something like that, that we actually can work on and is possible, then I think it's good to remind ourselves that it is possible. Because I know for some people, you might have that deep desire to go to France and you've had it for 10 years, but you keep telling yourself it's not possible. And you might tell yourself that because looking at your circumstances right now, it looks impossible. I get that. You may have not saved a penny in the last 3 years. I get that. You might have children that you're taking care of. You might have a super demanding job. You might be in law school. I get that. But I'm still going to say a but, guys. And I know this might infuriate some of you because you like to live on your I can't because something else is going on. And you like to have that. And I get that it might make some of you mad. But I just also hope that I can remind you that even if your circumstances look a certain way right now, they might not always look like that. And sometimes there's a way to get out of that. So if you hate your circumstances right now, there is a way to get out of it. It's possible. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that It will even happen in the way you want it to. And I'm definitely not saying it's easy. And I'm definitely not saying that it wouldn't take sacrifices, because it definitely will. But all I'm saying is that it's possible. If we are in a situation that we hate with our job or with where we live or something like that, it is possible to fix it. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's possible this year even. I'm just saying it's possible. And so something like, I can't go to France. I think maybe you can. It might just be in a while, and you might have to sacrifice a lot, but I think maybe you can. But no, of course, not everyone's going to get to France, okay? That's our whole thing now. Not everyone's going to get to France. I get that too. But if you tell yourself that it is possible, it's more likely to happen. And that's why I think words matter. Because if you keep telling yourself, I can't, you're not going to put the work in, you're not going to make the sacrifices, and you're just going to believe that you can't. And you're going to keep convincing yourself you can't. And then everyone around you is probably also going to convince you that you can't, and you're going to believe them because you think it too. And you're going to wallow in whatever negativity is actually happening. But if you say, I can't right now, but it's possible in the future, just take out that first half of that sentence. You don't even need to think about the fact that you can't right now, because maybe it is a fact. Maybe you legit cannot right now. But if you focus on the idea, I can in the future, then your whole mindset's going to change. And this whole channel, that mindset, your whole mindset's going to change if you tell yourself, I can do it. And again, does that mean that it's definitely going to happen? No, but I think it's more likely if you tell yourself you can. It's more likely. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video. As you can tell, this video is quite long. Honestly, it felt like I've been talking for 5 minutes and I've been recording for almost 40. I'm going to cut it down a little bit, but I can talk about this kind of stuff forever because I think it's really important. And honestly, I can make very similar videos from this and just kind of stem off a little bit into mildly different topics, but all around this mindset stuff when it comes to goals or how we talk to ourselves, words that we use, stuff like that. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that you're subscribed to this channel for videos like this, just mindset, my thoughts. And I really do hope that you guys leave comments telling me what you think as well. And I do hope that we can all be respectful and kind, because we all are going to have different opinions. And I just also hope that if we ever feel offended, like if this video ever offends you, I truly hope that before you just go to your keyboard and start to yell at me, that you sit and think about why it offends you. Because does it offend you because I'm hitting a nerve that maybe you've told yourself that you can't go on that vacation and you don't want to be told that it's possible? Or are you just in a situation where you definitely can't right now and you want to yell at me? Here's the thing. If you know you can't right now, then I'm agreeing with you. So you don't need to yell at me, because I understand that not everyone can do their goals right now. 100% not. That wouldn't make any sense. So I'm not saying that. Okay. So please refrain from yelling at me for that, because that's not what I'm saying. I hope that when we talk in the comments that we're actually hearing people for what they're actually saying and not just getting offended for what we think that we want to hear and get offended by. And so I just hope that before we ever say anything negative, we think about it for a second first and be like, wait, did Katie actually say that? Did I watch the whole video first? Or am I just getting offended because I really actually think that Katie's right, but I don't want to change my mindset right now, you know? Or maybe you just don't agree with me, which is totally fine. But I just also hope that we can be kind in the comments. So anyway, thank you guys again for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I would love to hear from you in the comments. And I guess that's going to be it. Thank you again for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.